Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Everyone. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Gurave Namaha. Om.
Welcome, friends. This afternoon we are going to do more chanting. We're going to do more handwriting, and we are going to continue to enjoy Sanskrit's healing energy. So I think what we're going to start with is a little review of the alphabet. So that's page 2 for most of you. We're just going to chant it through. A, I, E, U, U.
A, I, E, U, U.
E, I, O, Au, A.
E, I, O, Au, A.
R, R.
R, R.
Lr, lr.
Lr, lr.
So vowels can be pronounced without any other sound. Consonants need a sound to make them pronounceable. They need a vowel. So in English, we go through all kinds of helper vowels, you could say. We have A, which is a vowel. Then we get to B, and you have an E sound. A, B, C, D, E. By the time we get to F, we front load our vowel for our F sound. So in Sanskrit, everything has a built-in A, short A. So we're going to understand this a little better from a writing point of view in a little bit. But I wanted to mention it before we go into consonants, because you're hearing everything with a short A. And that's how we talk about them, because if you say k, there is still some other sound there that's not a K sound. Ga, ka, ga, ga, nga. 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 And bringing our attention a little further forward in the mouth to the palate. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. 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 Curling the tongue back to the ridgy part of the mouth. Da, ta, da, da, na. 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 Bringing the tongue right behind the teeth. Da, ta, da, da, na. 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 And forward to the lips. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma.
ba, ba, ma.
Now, semivowels are a little bit different. They don't touch quite as hard. And I want you to feel, Shanta's going to lead us in semivowels. I want you to feel the quality of touch as we go through them.
Yara lava, yara lava, yara together. Yara lava, yara lava, yara lava, yara lava, yara lava, yara lava.
So once again, say ya.
Ya,
Ya is palatal. You have your tongue way back in the roof of your mouth. Pronounce E,
e,
ya,
ya,
and feel the commonality. E, ya.
ya.
Now, ra,
Ra,
r,
ra,
ra, r.
ra, r.
And la, lr.
La, lr.
Tongue behind the teeth for la.
La,
La, lr.
la, lr.
Va is a little bit of a different letter because it is dentolabial. If we pronounce a fully labial letter, we get wa. Pronounce wa.
Wa,
Now say oo.
u,
Oo, wa.
uwa.
But Sanskrit has a little bit of difference in this semivowel in that it gets a little extra, it gets some teeth. And pronounce va.
Va,
So those are our beautiful semivowels. You will find them often in mantras that are used for meditation. Guruji would often use just semivowel chanting for meditation.
Yam ram lam bam, 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 yam ram lam bam.
You can feel. Also, we could do ya ya yum.
Ya ya yum, ya ya yum, ya ya yum, ya ya yum together. Ya ya yum, ya ya yum, ya ya yum, ya ya yum. Ra ra ram, 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 ra ra ram,
Ra ra ram, ra ra ram.
la la lam, 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 la la lam,
La
la
la lam.
lam 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 lam
Lam.
bum 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 bum.
Oh.
Om.
Now we come once again to the sibilants. Shasha saha.
Shasha saha.
Shasha saha.
Shasha saha.
Shasha saha. Shasha saha.
Shasha saha. Shasha saha.
Oh.
Om.
So we're going to open this afternoon with a verse, and I think maybe a reading from Guruji. Do you have that reading nearby? So Guruji wrote and talked a lot about what was the importance of learning Sanskrit. And as Shanta said this morning, he would say, if you want to be here, you need to study Sanskrit. And when he was discussing with me, or I should say it was being discussed and I was there, about whether I should come to the San Francisco ashram or not. He said, if you want to study Sanskrit, then come. So what is his thinking about Sanskrit? We're going to take a couple readings over the weekend, starting with this one.
You can see TV, listen to the radio, read the newspapers. You can observe the world's history. One thing is common in the past, present, and future throughout the planet. Wherever there is war in any form, whether guerrilla warfare, religious war, political war, individual, domestic, social, national or international war, hijacking or airplane bombing, the cause behind it is the untrained and undisciplined mind and heart. In this condition, what can be done? What is our duty, our responsibility? Should we silently watch? What should we do to try to prevent these wars, calamities, and catastrophes? You cannot change the human mind, but you can change its contents. When mental contents change, then our hearts automatically become the divine center of unity. Here by change, I mean transformation of the mind through Sanskrit, because Sanskrit is the cosmic language, the language of unity. We have the English language and other modern languages for political and business purposes. Now we need a divine language to unite our hearts and minds for world peace. Due to modern scientific inventions and discoveries, the whole planet has become like one house. But our minds are still primitive, disunited. The thinking mind is the automatic problem-making machine. When an individual does not resolve his or her own problems, then the problems become domestic. If the family and house are out of order, then naturally the whole society becomes lawless. When society is out of order, then we get national and international war in various forms. Therefore, to avoid chaos and confusion, we must discover the center of unity in our own hearts and minds. Every problem originates from the countless subtle problems deeply rooted in the unconscious mind. We cannot solve these problems because the untrained, undisciplined mind itself is the problem maker. Therefore, we need to raise the contents of our hearts and minds from lower to higher spiritual plane through Sanskrit, which vibrates deep layers of the psyche through pranic vibration. Sanskrit is the way leading toward perfection and unity. Chanting Sanskrit, listening to authentic Sanskrit chanting with a quiet, meditative mind, and studying Sanskrit grammar will stimulate automatic and spontaneous psychoanalysis, psychosynthesis, and psychotherapy. Sanskrit is quantum healing for body and mind. Therefore, in addition to modern languages, we need Sanskrit, the language of the heart and unity, the language of integration. Our life needs all modern languages for multiplicity, while we need Sanskrit as the means for unity.
I think I would also like to add that I don't think all of us who have benefited from this would say that this is the only way. Because one of the things that our guru was very strong on was unity. And there can be many paths. And one of the things we remember very vividly, especially from when we first came here, was how many teachers would come from different paths, from different approaches, and all were welcome. So this is a tool. It is a very powerful tool, and we are making it more available to more people. But what counts is what are we striving for? meditative mind, and we will hear much more about it this evening from our brain people. So, how to approach the ocean of Sanskrit and anything at all, we have our first longer mantra, Jalabindu, which should be 1 page over. How many pages?
3rd page in.
3rd page in is a very nice mantra that Shanta is going to lead us in.
Om Jalabindu Nipatena. Everyone? Jalabindu Nipatena Kramasha Puryate Gata Kramasha Puryate Gata Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Dharmasya cha Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha Dhanasya cha. Together the whole thing. Jalabindu Nipatena Kramasha Puryate Gata Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha. By the falling of drops of water, little by little at a time, the jar is gradually filled. That step by step is the cause of attaining all knowledge, correct behavior, and your wealth. It's like when your kitchen sink is leaking underneath a little bit, and you put a jar to catch the little drops of water, then they get contained and they don't go all over the place.
I think this verse is really best for those of us who have lived with bad plumbing. If you have been so fortunate as to never live anywhere where things leaked, you don't understand the profundity. Whereas if you have had a sink, which we have definitely had, where you put a bucket underneath it before you go to bed at night, and you say, oh, no problem, I can get a full 8 hours sleep on this bucket, not to worry. And you get up the next morning and the bucket is close to overflowing. You realize that little drop by drop effect is very strong. So this is something to think about when you can either look at, if you go back to the glass metaphor, how little we know and how much we don't know, or we can just look at how we are little by little exploring this wonderful language. And we are encouraging you, obviously, to go with enjoying the process and understanding that little by little, much comes. The other thing that I think is nice is that there's 3 things talked about in this verse. There's knowledge, there's correct behavior, and there's wealth. So we have many adages in our language. We have a penny saved is a penny earned. I feel like there's something else I'm forgetting. But correct behavior is one that's come up a lot more in recent times in terms of building healthy habits. That there's been research done, this might be one of many things Ken can speak on, of how long it takes to successfully build a new habit. So say you've been told you're at risk for diabetes and you need to walk every day, and you've never had the habit to walk. How long does it take you to do that? And you may think, oh, I'm not walking 7 days a week, I'm not doing this. But maybe you're walking 2 days a week where you never walked before. And then gradually, it becomes part of your life. So I think about that in terms of habits that I'm trying to change in myself. Like, not necessarily succeeding overnight, but if I can look at it from the point of view of this verse, okay, I did that. I did that yesterday, or 2 days ago, and I will do it again.
I think we should chant it one more time.
Yeah.
Om Jalabindu Nipatena Jalabindu Nipatena Kramasha Puryate Gata Kramasha Puryate Gata Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Dharmasya cha Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha Dhanasya cha. Everybody together. Jalabindu Nipatena Kramasha Puryate Gata Sahetu Sarva Vidyanam Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha Dharmasya cha Dhanasya cha. Om.
So when we were writing the alphabet this morning, we left off with sibilants. And what we're going to go into this afternoon is how to combine vowels and a little bit consonants. So before we get to combining vowels, I'm going to ask Shanta to go back and be our scribe with Shasha Saha, that last line of the alphabet we didn't get to. And I'm going to invite people here who have more experience with Sanskrit words. We're going to be doing words that have only single consonants. So we're going to write yoga and shishu and maybe kaka. But those of you who have more vocabulary, that will be something we'll be getting to in about an hour. Writing words with different vowels. The vowels that we learned to write this morning, that's what vowels look like at the beginning of words. So we had Ananda as our best example of long A, which means bliss. Ashrama. Short A, Alpa. I don't know if I have a...
Alpa, yeah.
Alpa means little. It's a good word. It's a useful vocabulary word. Short E, my name Indira, can serve. But when you take these vowels and put them in the middle of a word, they have a shorthand version. And that's going to be a big part of our afternoon exploration. But first, we have our three sibilants. So let's review chanting them. First one is palatal. I want you all to say sha,
Sha,
sha.
sha,
Now say ya,
ya,
ya, sha.
yasha.
And you can feel these are both palatal letters, but the quality of touch is different. And if you were to say ja,
Ja,
can you feel how you hit your tongue more definitely with ja? Is a definite contact. Ya is gentle. And it's different again with sha. My analogy for some of these is a bit odd, but in terms of definite contact, most of us have flown in airplanes and landed, right? There was one time many years ago coming into Boston where we started to land and went right back up in the air. And the pilot was so professional. He said, you know, there's just a little too much ice on the ground, so we're going to circle around, let them put more salt on it, and come back. But it was wonderful because he didn't make it sound scary. It was just like, you know, we're just going to reboot this here. But the semivowels and the sibilants touch a little differently, and you can feel when you pronounce. So getting to the first one, I'm going to have Shanta write sha our palatal, what is our English SH sound. And this one, you can see one of two ways. You can see it with a neck, the part that looks like a number 2, sometimes has no neck and it's freestanding. Sometimes you will see it with a neck. So for your own handwriting, you have full freedom. Pick what looks pretty to you. Okay, but now Shanta, give us one where just the 2 has no roof.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's how I usually do it. But I do it with the neck also. And I don't even notice the difference between how I'm
So in this last one, the top of the 2-part kind of loses itself in the top line.
No, but I'm talking about no top over it at all. That's how I do
Oh,
it
I see.
mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 2 is just freestanding. And then the line after it gets the roof. But only that line. Yeah.
Okay.
In the middle of the word, you break the roof like that? Or just in the...
I'm thinking of at the beginning. Like if I were to write Shanta, yeah, I would write it actually without that, even that thing on top of the line. I'll show you how I would do it. And this again, on different fonts, in different books, you'll see a little differently. So I just do like this.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar, slightly different. So that is our palatal sha. The cerebral sha, again, our pronunciation trick is to do a ta. So curl your tongue back and do ta, and now say sha. Ta, sha. Perfect. Sha basically is nothing more than a pa with a line through it. So you already know how to make the shape. You just put a line across it. So it's like the difference between va and ba. No real difference except that little line. So sha, sha, sa, we did this morning because it starts with a ra. Remember, you do the ra on this side and then add pieces. Sha, sha, sa.
Sha, sha, sa.
Beautiful.
Remember the palatals. You just smile when you make the palatal.
Sha,
Sha,
curl tongue. Sha,
sha,
by the teeth. Sa,
sa,
sha, sha, sa.
sha, sha, sa.
All right, now we come to ha. Can anybody tell me what part of the mouth we pronounce ha in? Guttural. It's an extra guttural letter, so say ha. Feel it comes from your throat. Ha is a funny letter to draw. When I was first learning to write, I stressed over ha. And sometimes I still stress over ha if I'm trying to make it particularly beautiful. That one Shanta did on the right is absolutely gorgeous. That's a really pretty ha. It can be a little more curved, a little less curved. I would say that as we talked this morning, if you have a letter with 2 sort of curves, the curve on the top should be smaller or the same size, not bigger. You don't want to make it too tiny. So that one on the right that I consider so beautiful, you wouldn't want the top part to get a lot smaller. But as it is, it's graceful and lovely. So, good word for ha is hridayam, heart. We maybe should make time for mahata later if we can do this weekend. So, we have done all the consonants and all the vowels. The by themselves. We're now going to start combining. So by tradition, we generally do with the letter ka. That's how we all learned, but it's not essential. Let's mix it up today. Let's start with ka. So I think, yeah, you've got room there. So as we talked about earlier, but maybe I didn't explain it well from a writing point of view, all letters in Devanagari come with a built-in short a. So if you want to say, ik, as we would say, like, ik, like that, you need to take the out. So I'm going to ask Shanta to draw a ka, a normal ka, and then we put a stroke, what we call usually a hull stroke, but virama, you will see in many books, is you take off the short a. This, by the way, is all covered on page 4.
So that's simply k, no vowel.
But you can't really properly say that because we're sort of borrowing a short e or something comes in there. But you can say it at the end, like ik. So that's what the ka looks like if there's nothing, there's no vowel with it. It's got that line. Okay, so this is right after Jalabindu. Your handout is everything you wanted to know about combining vowels. Now, what we thought would be fun would be to, as we've done on blackboards, colored Sharpie for the vowel pieces, sweetie. Do you want to try the red? See how that looks? So if you could do a ka, we're going to go to ka. To make a long vowel, you just give it an extra line. So if you can give me a black ka, and then make the extra line be in red, we can see if students like the color-coded approach to understanding the extra vowel pieces. So to turn a ka into a ka, you add a line.
And this goes for any consonant. You would add a line to make it long ah.
Right. We're starting with ka, but we're going to mix it up. So what's the next vowel? Short E. So to give it a short E, by the way, if you take out the short a, you do the hull sign. If you add any other vowel, you don't need to take out the short a. It gets like written over. So short E, we're not doing anything to get rid of the a. We just add the E part, and it's understood. That's what we're working with now. So that is a line in front and a loop over. Different people use different words. What, anybody use anything other than a loop? Arc. That works. All right, so that's short E. That's one that's a little bit different because the line that it attaches to comes in front. Long E is the line's going to come after. Kaka,
Kaka,
kiki.
kiki.
All right, there you go. And then we need cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
So there's a couple ways to think of cuckoo. I think I like Shanta's better than mine. So after Shanta writes it, I'll have him explain how he thinks of it.
So in the short oo version, I consider the oo a 6 on its back, lying down. And in the long version, you're going to roll it over to be a 6 on the stomach.
I think I was taught originally, and I always thought of it as waves. But I think the 6 is a little more concrete. Waves can be very multiform. Whichever way you want to think. You're just reversing that curve to go from short to long.
With the short oo, the loop is on the bottom right, and the line goes up to the upper left. And in the long oo, the loop is on the upper left, and the line goes down to the lower right.
Ka ka ki ki ku ku.
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 All right, so now we need to get to ke kai ko kao kam ka. Ke kai ko kao kam ka. So ke is basically you write a ka and you give it a flower.
Thank you.
I was just thinking how much he was able to get on the piece of paper. If it was me, I would be switching pages by now. All right, and then we have kai. And I think some friends were not sure what door to come in, so I'm going to have Shanta continue with diphthongs. Oh, okay. Diphthongs are really pretty easy. They're mostly flowers. Yeah, it's that sheet. That should, we didn't end up, the sheets were going to be numbered at some point, but it's functionally sheet number 4. I think actually for tomorrow, I may have people number them, because it, it will save time, especially with compound consonants. Okay, so where did we get to? Ke kai. All right, now.
Ko cow.
Ko kao. And Shanta, you can talk us through ko kao.
So we have the ka. And to make an O, we will make an extra line like we did with ki, long E, but with ko, you're going to make an extra line with a flower over the extra line, going off to the left with a little loop at the top.
So what Shanta explained this morning in a different context, which I unfortunately I don't remember, is that you always anchor to the right-handmost line. So the flowers you're going to think of as being as far right as you can go. And the same way, cow is, as you might imagine, it's just this extra line and 2 flowers. Ke kai ko kao kam ka. Ke kai ko kao kam ka. So kam ka, if you can write those, this is where we have anuswara and visarga. So the anuswara is just the dot that can change what part of the mouth it's pronounced in. But for chanting purposes, we consider it to be ma. And the visarga is that extra breathiness, almost always at the end of words. Who can tell us where you see visarga in the middle of a word? Give one example. No, sukham doesn't have it. It's the opposite. Dukkham, yes. The word for misery has a visarga in the middle of it. And it sort of feels correct that it's not entirely easy to say. Otherwise, visarga is generally seen at the end of things. All right, so we've gone through the vowels.
We haven't finished.
Oh,
Arr.
why do I keep forgetting those?
Arr,
It's terrible.
arr.
That kr, Krr. Excuse me. Krr, krr. People echoing, yes? Krr, krr. Yeah, I didn't get to the letter yet. We will do that. So, good example with krr is Krishna, which of course is the god Krishna, but it's also a very common word for black. So anything you want to use adjective, Krishna is legitimate word for black. Now, long r, kr, you just give it 2 hooks. So r is pretty intuitive. 1 hook, 2 hooks. Klr is basically, it does come up, as I said, in the verb klurp. You write a ka and stick that lr underneath it. It doesn't necessarily come out so perfect.
Didn't you also do half that?
Well, that's what I mean. It becomes like stacked a bit.
Should I do half ka or do the full ka and then hang the la underneath it?
I think stacked, but it
You think what?
stack it as much as you can, but
Okay.
it ends up smushed a bit together.
You're out of the camera.
Oh, thank you.
Try putting this underneath your page so it doesn't bleed.
I'm already doing it. Yeah, thank you. I'll keep that though. Thanks.
No, that looks more effective. Thank you.
Yeah, really.
That's this is our first experiment with Sharpies, but they really do show up better on the screen.
That helps.
Thank you. Thank you. So let us go through again.
Not this, not done here.
Oh, sorry.
So you can do that and leave the right side up and then make your la. I'm running out of room. And then put the hook for the short there.
See, I think stacking is more correct because
Mhm.
that's almost treating it too much like a consonant,
Okay?
which we're going to be getting to, compound consonants. And you change always the first consonant, sometimes the second consonant in compound consonants.
How's that?
That looks fine. Yeah,
A little bit tall.
fine. So, let
And then
us-
the long one would be 2 hooks.
yeah. We have to ask our goddess student where it shows up so we can give proper examples. So we should have, we're going to run through this again because everything needs repetition. It would be good to pick a consonant that has 2 sides to it. So on ka, there's only 1 line at the top, right? So we have a few that have more than one thing that attaches to the top. So somebody pick me another consonant. Ma. Excellent. So a ma all by itself is going to have the a built in and remind us what we do if we want to take out the short a. Yes. The stroke to the side.
Want me to do that?
Yep. Just
Ma with the kickstand.
ma with that, yeah. I actually think of, oh, doesn't matter. We can all use slightly different words as long as we get to the same form.
So that's
Yeah. All right, now if we want to make ma, we write a ma with Sweetie, give me a ma.
We should get an answer from the group because now they know.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do we add to make long ah? Line, good.
What do you call that?
I don't know. Just, I mean, I know the word for line, but in this case, I'm not sure what you'd call it.
Undoubtedly, there's a word for it. We have to look in the Goldman book.
Rekha means line in general, but specifically like this down line as part of the handwriting, I don't know. So ma, all right, moving on to short E. What do we do for short E? All right, but what does the swoosh to the left anchor to? Another line, and where does it get put?
Like that.
Yeah, it gets put in front. So this is the one place where the line goes in front.
And the other end of the line is always attaching to the rightmost vertical
Right.
of the consonant.
So now we get to long E. Keep going.
Somebody has to tell them.
Oh, sorry.
Is that on the right, the same kind of swoosh?
Okay, line on the right and swoosh over the top. Good. Mama, mimi.
Mama, mimi,
Mumu.
mumu.
All right, what's Shanta's word for what goes underneath to make oo?
Short oo.
Short oo, sorry. 6 on its back. Or a curled under wave, whatever you like. And then long oo. 6 on its belly. Mama, mi, mi, moo, moo.
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 And diphthongs. For May, what do we add for May? A flower. For those of you at home, and actually for all of us, we're doing the vowel pieces in a different color as a teaching tool. When you're actually writing it, it's all the same. But we're starting out today with the idea that this might help people see the pieces that they're adding. Hmm?
Yeah,
Oh.
in the previous I did the color.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of work.
Is it, well, I actually was concerned because
Here you go. Vowels are,
Sharpies give off a bit of a smell, and didn't want Shanta gassed out by too many open Sharpies, so this is fine. So, back to ma. Me, my, mo, mao, mamma. Me, my, mo, mao, mamma.
how do we do my? I don't know.
Dew flowers, thank you, Girija. I think actually...
They grow out of the same spot, but then they don't touch.
Right, what I'd like to do for this afternoon, because we have one new person who's joined us, if we can back up and do simple introductions. Those of you who did full introduction this morning, just give your names so we all know who each other are. And if Seth can hand around the mics, I think it would be lovely. Somebody joined us this afternoon, and it would be what I asked this morning, and I'll say for myself, just very briefly.
I was on Facebook Live, so I didn't hear it.
Okay, so if you heard me, then you know what I want to hear about you. Yes, so name and a little bit background and where you're from.
I'm Gina. Actually, it's Junkana. Junkana Shah from Somerset, New Jersey. My parents named me. Now I'm trying to think how to spell all that. And they're Gujarati. We're Gujarati. Gujarati Jains by background, and I had emailed prior to the workshop. And so I speak Gujarati. I've taken Hindi in college back at the University of Chicago for a year. So I did some script as a child learning Gujarati and as a, I guess, a first year or second year college kid learning the script. But I never studied Sanskrit. I have that Goldman book. I had it for many years. I always had the thought that I would want to learn someday, and then this came up, so it's awesome. And other languages, Spanish, which I've actually sometimes told people to pronounce this T like a Spanish T, like just sort of to let them understand the soft sounds, so for what that's worth.
And the lack of aspiration, I think, is the other thing Spanish is helpful for.
Yeah. And what was the last thing? Is that maybe that's enough of an intro?
Just any other, it was just basically name where you're from and your language background, yeah, and, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so that's basically it. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Right, and I was able to follow most of the morning, and then we were driving in the afternoon, and it dropped for a little bit, but I caught some reading for a little part, and then the very beginning, and then we came in and were lost, and she kindly came out to help us.
Wonderful. I'm actually hoping to, in September, I'm hoping to be on a class while driving to a wedding. So I'm glad to hear that it can work some of the time.
Subject to the whimsy of the signal.
Yeah, that's always. We're grateful that so far this afternoon it's not being whimsical here. Yeah, holding that thought. So, me mai mo mao, me
My mo mao.
So the O and the ow, just it's a line and one or two flowers, right? So the diphthongs are very flowery. If we have time this weekend, we might do a little bit more on where diphthongs come from, but I'm going to take 2 minutes right now to say, and I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and feel it. E, oo, oo.
E, oo.
R, lr.
Lr.
As we do that process, those are the simple vowels. And as we chant them, we are moving from the throat forward. It's a little bit different with the r's because the last one we get to is the lips. So let me do it again in proper order. E.
E.
R, lr.
Lr. Lr.
Ooh.
Ooh.
All right, so we just came forward in the mouth. Starting with in the throat, going all the way to oo at the lips. Diphthongs are combined. You pronounce in more than one part of your mouth. So without going into the color coding or the writing, I'm just going to interrupt what we're doing and do a-e really quickly. So if you pronounce a-e, 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 it was better at this 20 years ago. A-e together. A-e, 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 a-e. You get to a-e and then you get to like yay. So I may practice this tonight. We can do it again tomorrow. I invite you all to practice doing it on your own time. But basically, I and a are a combination of a and E. You have guttural sound and you have palatal sound coming together. A plus U, a 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 u. You get first ow and then you get o. And that's what om is. Om is starting in the throat, going out to the lips, encompassing everything. So diphthongs are, by definition, vowels pronounced in more than one part of the mouth. And from a writing point of view, they are flowery. I think there was another word for flower that another student had, but flower works for me and I can't remember. Peak? And that was the curving forward thing, was the quail feather. Maybe.
Antenna, I've heard.
Oh, antenna, yeah, that's very, especially, was fashionable when I was a kid. Aliens always were drawn that way, right? It's the old-fashioned way of drawing people from another planet, was they all had antennas. My favorite Martian, one of the great TV shows of all time, he actually had antennas. Anyway, that's enough digression. So we have now learned to write consonants with vowels. So I'm going to have Shanta write a few words.
Do you want to do mr and mr?
Oh, so apologies, yes. Mr, mr. And I'm not going to take us through lur in combos. As I said, the only word I know it shows up with is with ka. And we're not going to do things that we do not see in the language. So if we've done mr, we're good. So first word I'm going to invite Shanta to write is yoga.
So we have ya, o, ga, and because Sanskrit's phonetic, when you spell it, you hear the proper pronunciation. Ya, o, ga, yoga.
But I'm with the sarga.
Okay? Yoga. How do we make the O with a consonant? Extra line and flower, or antenna.
One flower, yeah.
And how do we make ga? Simply make ga.
So those of you who know Devanagari, you don't have to write, but those of you for whom this is new, I encourage you to write every word, because it really will stick in your head better.
And how do we make the H with the dot, the Visarga in Devanagari? Dot, dot.
Dot.
Dot, dot. Dot, dot.
And I always think of it as its own self, but that's pretty much a colon, right?
Yeah.
I can't.
Colon.
So yoga, as in yogas chitta vritti nirodha. You're referencing Yoga Sutra.
Any questions about this? Anybody online wondering about anything?
I was just wondering why you do the H, the yoga at the end rather than just yoga. Is there a grammar reason?
No, that's a great question, and it is a grammar reason. In Sanskrit, nouns have different endings depending what they are in a sentence. So the word yoga, usually things are introduced how they would be if they were the subject of the sentence. And depending on the dictionary you use, like this one, you look up and you generally see things in the nominative case, which is like the subject of the sentence. And if you don't have any endings on at all, that doesn't have the visarga. So if you were to say, yoga is his primary interest, as a subject of a sentence, then you absolutely need the visarga because it's the subject of a sentence. And if you were to say, I study yoga, you would say yogam. It would have that ending. So these are module 2 things in detail, but we're going to introduce some of it this weekend because it comes up. Great example is the invocations that we do at the beginning of all classes. Those are in Girija, what case? Dative, yes, beautiful. Because the particle nama, which means salutations, always goes with the dative case. So if you take Ganeshaya, the aya ending is dative, and that's what nama goes with. So all of these bits of grammar, most of you have been exposed to without necessarily knowing what or why. So the invocations are a nice place to start because we like to start things with invocations. Sarasvatyai, that's dative for feminine and long E. And Gurave, masculine and short U. So as we...
And we will be giving extra one-on-one classes for anybody who wants to go deeper with it.
And we're rolling out module 2 later this summer if you want to make sentences. But getting back to words, I'm hoping for inspiration. The other one I thought of was kaka. So if you could write kaka. This is fairly intuitive. It's not necessarily the most useful word, but we happen to have a murder of crows, as they say, that lives in our neighborhood. We have a couple huge pine trees that our neighbors have, and the crows will go from one to another and
How do we make long ah?
line to the right.
Every time. And then another ka with nothing added because the is born in each letter. And then of course here we have our same visarga. So this is crow as the subject. My top line is pretty horrible there.
Okay, so I remembered I had another good one for single consonants. Shishu. Shishu means baby. So good word, starting with short E, ending with short U. And Guruji used to say something very sweet I can't properly remember about babies going shish, 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 shish. But I think maybe people go to shish, shish, shish to babies more. I don't know. But
So how do we make short E?
line in front and a swoosh.
Loop.
Loop, yes. Loop or smush, whatever.
And cerebral sibilant. And how do we make short oo? 6 on its back. Every time. And visarga. I'm resorting to the dictionary for inspiration, but I thought of a word all by myself that's a good example of, and this one is a neuter word, so it's going to end in an out of the box, as you would say. Nominative singular anyway. Graham. So graham means house or home, and it's a very common word. And how do we make the short r with any consonant? little hook or C shape. And then our last consonant of the alphabet, huh, kind of looks like an elephant. And then the ma, and how do we take the vowel away from the ma at the end of a word? So at the end of the word, we have been taught that one way to drop the vowel is to remove the right line, but at the end of a word or at the end of the line, we'll put the whole letter there with the halanta stroke. More of an anchor.
Another example for long E, Gita, like Bhagavad Gita. So we think of Bhagavad Gita as the name of a text, but it literally translates as the song of God. And Gita means song. So long E.
How do we do long E? To the right.
All right, switch to the right, and it is anchored to a line to the right, right?
Yep.
My switch just keeps on going into a line. I switched all the way down.
There you go.
And then how do we make long ah with any consonant?
Okay, so I'm going to ask, we are inviting people to say it out loud because it's a great way to learn. It's also less boring. But because only Shanta and I have the mics, I'm going to ask Shanta to repeat.
Okay.
So Chaitanya just said, you're out of line. So that's our Gita.
Ga-i-ta-a Gita. Graham ga-ar-ha-ama. Shishu sha-i-sha-u-ha. Kakaha ka-a-ka-aha. Yogaha ya-oga-aha.
Looking for any words without compound consonants?
Yes.
Cut.
Kadati. Okay. Excellent. So he or she eats. That's a good example because it's a full verb form, not just a noun. So kad means to eat. It's a very simple verb. You just add ati on it for third person singular. So he or she, person or animal, eats. How about Ganesha? Or Ganeshaya, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The Shri we can't do yet because it needs compound consonants, which we're going to do soon. But we can do Ganesha.
Ga-a, no, ga-a, cerebral na, a, cerebral sha, a, and visarga. Yeah? Oh, did you want to do Ganeshaya?
Yeah. As we do in the invocations.
Ga-a na a sha a ya a. Ga. Cerebral na. A vowel. Cerebral sha. Long a. Ya a. Ga na a sha a ya a Ganeshaya.
All All right, I had a good idea that slithered out of my mind. Oh, bhojanam. Bhojanam means meal. Very practical word. We need to have something with an O.
Baha. How do we make the O vowel? Line and flower. Ja looks like a ladle. Dental na. Ma with a halanta stroke at the end. Baha o ja a na a ma. Bhojanam.
Bhojanam. Good. And we had idea from Karuna earlier of amritam for r.
So at the beginning of a word with a vowel, you just put the vowel in place because it doesn't have a consonant. The looks like this. The ma, how do we make a consonant with the r vowel? Pardon?
All
Little
right, so
c.
Girija calls it a little c. And what do you have? Little loop. Okay. I think of it as a hook. But it, as I said, it doesn't matter what word you use as long as the shape makes sense to you.
My hook
Right.
isn't that good, but
Yeah, it's because Sharpies are fat. No worries. So what did we not cover anything? We didn't do ow and o and I, but I think that's okay. We have mostly general idea. Om? Well, om can be done symbolically as we often do, or just, all right, let's do om as we would do it just as o plus a ma. And you will see it both ways in books, as you must know, yeah.
oh what?
Just write om. Not symbolically, but o plus ma plus a halanta stroke. My good words with I and ow have compound consonants in them, so that's all right. We're
Al shidam, but that's with the ow at the beginning.
yeah. Okay, this is excellent. I think you all have the idea. Do we have any online questions? Okay, totally good. So, trying to think, we have one more verse to do today. We want to leave a little space at the end for feeling things energetically. But we have time to do at least 2 kinds of compound consonants. Might not be able to stay. So that's all right. We're going to be reviewing. I think the challenging part of this weekend is that some people will be here tomorrow who weren't here today. And it is all recorded, yeah. So those people who have to duck out, they're going to be able to pick it up later, so no worries. Compound consonants are non-numbered pages, which I think we might number first thing tomorrow morning, are going to be starting right after the vowel worksheet, where you have places to copy kaka, kiki, kuku. Those of you who are here in person, I encourage you to copy and get your handwriting corrected or commented on, whatever you want to say. A good opportunity. This next page has got a handout that runs 3-4 pages and covers an awful lot of ground. We're going to be spending a lot of the weekend on this, in addition to learning more verses and continuing to chant and feel. How to form compound consonants in Sanskrit. The first rule is if there is a final vertical line, you take it away. So, first thing that comes to my mind is gya. Gya. Don't have a great example for it, but non-aspirate ga plus ya. So if you can write a ga, write a full ga, and we're just going to see that that has a final vertical line.
You're talking about this in English?
Yes, that's what we're going to end up with. But write the Devanagari ga all the way out. And then we're going to take out that line. And we end up with just the short line with the triangle. And then what do we do to connect it with the ya? We just write it right next to that. There's no real connection. But we know because there is that absence of a line that we're pronouncing this together, and it is gya. So, gotcha, that. So some of my examples need more compound consonants than we've gotten to. Sva is a great example. Let's do Sarasvati, the entire word. So Sarasvati is the goddess of speech and learning and definitely all kinds of language, also the arts. So Sarasvati is saluted before music events, before dance events, before anything where you are creating artistic expression. And there are many names for Sarasvati, but this one is the one we use in our primary invocations. So, Sarasvati, as it is there, you see one compound consonant, and that is between sa and va. So if, Shanta, if you can draw a complete sa. Oh, we have a question coming in.
We have a question from YouTube, Joy Goebel. She would like to know if it's possible to get a copy of Guruji's reason for the study of Sanskrit.
Absolutely, yeah. Shanta
Okay.
will send it to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Joy, I don't know if you just heard that. Shanta will email you a copy of that document.
Maybe Seth will remind me, because it's going to be a few days,
Sure.
to have Joy send me an email for that request.
Sure. Joy, you probably just heard that. If you could put here in the comments section your email address, or you could just email Shanta directly, and he'll be happy to send that to you. Thank you for the question.
Additionally, Guruji wrote more than that one section. This is a compilation, I think, maybe that Bharati put together, but it's not the only one. But I'm assuming she's referring to what Shanta read earlier today.
That's what
We'll
she's
definitely
referring to.
send that on to anybody who would like it. So the letter sa has a final vertical line. So when you're combining consonants, you pick the simplest solution. If there is a final vertical line, you get rid of it, which is easily done when you're teaching with pencil or chalk, not so easy when you're teaching with Sharpies. So, Shanta, if you could write the sa without the final vertical line.
Should we do the sa and the ra first, the first part of the word?
No,
Okay.
too complicated.
Okay.
Just give us the sa without that last line, and in this case, we're going to physically attach it to the va. So the va is our very simple, this is this is an interesting one to say how you would describe it. I just think of it as a circle on a stick. Anybody else have any descriptors for va? All right, so that is sva. So now you have everything you need to write Sarasvati. But in our invocations, because it is the dative case, we're writing Sarasvatyai. So now I'm going to ask Shanta to write in English Sarasvatyai. And that will give us one more compound consonant between a ta and a ya. Now, everybody look at your alphabet sheets and look at your dental ta and tell me, do you see there a final vertical line?
On the right.
On the right, yeah. Final means on the right, because everything left to right. Yes, you see one. So in this case, we are going to again take the simple path of getting rid of that final vertical line to combine with the ya. So Shanta, if you can write out Sarasvatyai from the beginning, the sa is just easy all by itself, and then the ra, and then our new compound consonant, sva, and then the ta without the final vertical line. Again, we're going to just stick it onto the ya. And to make ai, we have two flowers. Sarasvatyai.
Sarasvatyai.
So we're going to do a brief introduction to metrics, probably on day 3. And we're going to talk about light and heavy syllables. But I want you to notice the best example for this is this word Sarasvatyai. Pronounce.
Sarasvatyai.
You get extra energy before compound consonants because you need a little more oomph to carry 2 consonants. Om Shri Sarasvatyai Namaha.
Om Shri Sarasvatyai Namaha. Om.
This is a goddess name that's often mispronounced and especially should be pronounced properly because she is the goddess of speech. So she is deserving of everything proper.
Sa-a-ra-a-sa-va-a-ta-ya-ai. Sarasvatyai.
Sarasvatyai. And the particle nama just means, as I said before, salutations to. So when we have namaste, which is common in different Indian languages, some parts of India you go to, everything is namaste. Sometimes you have namaskar, other areas. But namaste is pure, and namaskara also is good Sanskrit. But namaste is nama plus te. Te is the dative of you. So it is literally salutations to you.
Or for you.
Yeah. But it is respectful greeting in that way.
I've been telling people, just based on what I understand of Gujarati, that it's literally namo is I bow to. I don't know if that's true. I mean,
Okay, we need to get the the mic out for that question, because that's a good question where I want everyone to hear.
So the question is, I've been translating namaste based on my literal understanding of namo as I bow to you, and whenever you say namo, whatever, it's I bow to that next part of the sentence. Is that really the case, that it's I bow to, or is it more abstract salutations?
Both are true.
Okay.
And the answer is that the verb nam means to bow. So it's one of the first ones we usually teach by chanting. So if you were to say in Sanskrit, if you were to say I bow, you'd say namami. And in that case, what or whom you bow to is in the accusative case. So I would say, if I were to say I bow to Saraswati, it would be aham saraswatim namami. So it has that idea of bowing, definitely. But the particle nama is generally just translated as salutations to. But it goes often with that form where we naturally bow. So nama, better translated, I would say, as salutations to, but it comes from the verb to bow, and it evokes that feeling. One of the nice things about Sanskrit is that oftentimes you can tell what verb something comes from, and it helps give a flavor to the noun you're talking about. It adds layers to the meaning. English also, I think all languages, but sometimes easier to trace in Sanskrit. Wonderful question. So if you were bowing, it is dative case, and it's going to have different forms according to what sort of a noun you're using. So Om Namah Shivaya, we're all can hear often, and that's the same as Om Shri Ganeshaya. That's masculine and short has that aya ending. Feminine in long E, it's the I. So Om Namo Devyai Nama, just Devi, goddess, is Devyai. And if it's long a goddess in long it would be Sharadayai. It's Ayai. So you begin to feel these patterns, and you're prepared for the next class. And understanding more of what you're reading on a frequent basis. Gurave is short U. I don't have anything as useful in short U for bowing to. But Gurave Nama is, I always think if I had one invocation, that would be, that'd be the one I would stick with, would be salutations to the teacher. Because the divine is all one, and what we are looking for usually is our inner teacher. Anyway, going back to compound consonants, those are good examples with dropping that last line. But let's go through the alphabet maybe and look at what has a final line and what doesn't. Because that's going to bring us to our next choice. And so we're on page unnumbered 4. We go back to page 2. We have the alphabet. So ka is a little bit of an exception. So I'm going to put aside ka for, not exception, but it's a little bit different. Ka absolutely has a final vertical line. I said it was a ball and a stick. Or what did I say? Ball's not quite right. Circle and a stick. Yeah? For va, and it's that same form in ka. So mukhya is the example. So why don't you write mukhya?
Short
We had
U.
it on one of our short, mukhya. Mukham means face.
Short U.
Short U. Mukham means face, sometimes means mouth. So related to having to do with the mouth or the face. Mukhya. So that's a little bit different example because that letter has two pieces. It has the part that looks like ra and the part that looks like va that we write very close together. So we're dropping the final vertical line on the second piece, which is what makes it final. So again, and I would actually have the circle touch the ya. I think,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you don't generally write it fully separate. So going guttural letters, non-aspirate ga totally has a final vertical line. We already used it, right? The next two letters don't exactly, because aspirate ga, if you combine it, it tends to look too much like something else. So it's usually handled differently. And definitely the nasal ng, there's no line there. Cha, easy. That is a line you can drop. Ja, ja, and nya has a line. You go down to the cerebrals. Ta, ta, da, da. Pronounce.
Ta, ta, da, da.
None of those have final verticals. You get to na, and you have one. And dentals. Ta, ta, da, da, na.
Ta, ta, da, da, na.
That's a bit of a mix. The first two and the last two have final verticals. The non-aspirate the absolutely doesn't. You have to do something else. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma.
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 How many do we have here? 5. 4 out of 5 totally have a final vertical. The aspirate pa is like ka. It doesn't have a vertical, but it has a vertical piece. So I'm going to have Shanta write here.
Aspirate ka.
Non-aspirate ka.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't have a good word for
So
that.
just ka with ya.
Just ka with ya, yeah. I like to have a good word example, but I don't. So anyway, you have this final vertical, you have that piece on the right that Shanta writes a little shorter than I do, but you can abbreviate it and just stick it onto something. So, in the same way, aspirate pa, you can take that hump, that curve on the right-hand side, and abbreviate it and stick it onto the ya. So, aspirate pa plus ya.
In English, you mean like this?
Yeah. Again, not one I have an immediate word for.
Aspirate pa.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do with the aspirate part? The pa.
The same that you did with the ka. It's just the same shape, really.
Oh,
Yeah, it's,
I don't think I've ever seen this before.
that's why, because it's not a great example, because neither of us can think of a word it shows up in.
But what do I do on the right of it?
You just stick the ya, just as you did with the ka.
Like so. But leave that much of the,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's fine. And ones that don't come up in nature, we're not going to think about too much, except I bet you it does somewhere.
Mm.
Just not coming to mind. Right, I've got a good example of something that
But let me
does.
just write the pa out in full so everybody knows the reference.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be this without a vowel plus the ya. And that's the iconography we're getting.
All right, I've got another easy word that is very useful. Labhya, aspirate bha, labhya, means literally obtainable, gettable. So Sanskrit has potential participles just as we do in English. We have legible, audible, all those bowls mean something's achievable or either in a should or a could sense. Potential. Potential participle. So labhya means obtainable. And as in English, it's an adjective. So almost nobody, right? This is a good sample audience here because we have two relative East Coasters. Who here really understands the source of sour grapes?
I've only been on the East Coast a couple years. I'm not really East Coast.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right, so Gina's saying not a proper East Coaster, more of a West Coaster. Makes it less likely. Sour grapes is part of Aesop's fables. And almost, I'm constantly struggling with, if I make a reference that people in California don't understand at all, is it because I'm, a good bit older than they are? Is it because I'm originally from the East Coast? Or is it because I picked up funny things reading books? And I think it's sometimes a combination of all three. But I'm astonished by people will misinterpret sour grapes. The story is a fox is wandering along and he sees some really good-looking grapes up high on a vine. And he tries and tries and tries, and he's just not able to jump high enough to get them. And then he says, I bet they were sour anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So these only was reminded of it because these grapes were not obtainable, at least by the fox, right? They were just too high up. He didn't have a ladder. So that's a good example of that potential participle, possibly. But sour grapes as an expression is, somebody tried to get a job, maybe interviewed. The trend seems to be nowadays people go through ridiculous amounts of interviews for jobs that people I know. No, it's brutal. 6 interviews, 8 interviews sometimes, and they don't get the job. And then their tendency can be to say, I heard that company had a very bad culture, so, or sour grapes. And it's not like, it can be true, but the idea is that you're talking down something because you couldn't get it, not because you really understand. Now, if you heard that this company was maybe not a good company to work for, that's a legitimate thing. But it could be that, 6 interviews later and you didn't make it, and instead of saying, that was a dream and I didn't make it and I'm going on to my next dream, you can talk down the dream. And I apologize for being overly wordy and digressing. But we have these sayings very much in all languages, and it's an interest of mine. The positive example was what we started the afternoon with jalabindu. That's like a common truth of little bit drops of water can add up. And it is very commonly understood by people I've met who speak Spanish. Gotita, gotita, se llena el vaso. People will nod and understand that, yeah, that falling of drops, it works. So Sanskrit is very rich with stories like the fox and the grapes. And there can be like 2 words that speak to a great deal. Come to think of it, what we should do is kupa manduka. If you can write manduka, that's a good compound consonant.
Cerebral na and cerebral da.
Cerebral na, cerebral da, both unaspirated, manduka. Like you have Mandukya Upanishad is one example. But kupa manduka is a funny little expression, which is a frog in a well. And we have in English a big fish in a small pond.
You
Like-
want a visarga on the end of that?
Sure, because it's a frog. It's a masculine frog in this case, yeah. So the idea is that he makes a lot of noise, he feels himself very big, but he is in a very small place. So he is the biggest noisemaker in this well, but he doesn't understand that the well is not the rest of the world.
So cerebral na looks like this, and in this word it doesn't have a vowel, so what can we do? Drop the line and just leave this short U shape there. And then the cerebral da, non-aspirate, looks like that S shape. How do we make the short U?
Actually, I think it's long U, manduka.
Oh?
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay.
I'm sorry.
So the 6 turns over on its stomach.
I'll double check myself.
Ma'ana da'u ka'aha mandukaha.
Kupa is a long U. And that's a compound word. So it means literally frog in a well. Frog. Gurji did an absolutely brilliant commentary. Shanta read it out loud many years ago. I don't know if he still knows where it is. Absolutely fantastic commentary of the difference between frogs and monkeys. And he's talking about going into meditation. And he's talking about the fact that monkeys jump from branch to branch, but they know where they're going. And frogs jump in
To the dark water that's unknown.
to the unknown. And it's vintage Guruji, and we have to find it and read it out loud again. Bharati might know. It was commentary, it might have been commentary on Mandukya Upanishad, but it was beautiful, and it was talking about letting go. Because if you need to be so controlled all the time, if you need to see where you're going, then you're not letting go, as we need to let go in meditation. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it's a long U, but always good to check. And it'll give me just a sec. So how many letters did you find that don't have a final vertical line? Because we need a different strategy for those, yeah? So somebody start counting out what does not, yeah, it's a long U, manduka. All right, not reading the dictionary and getting distracted.
9 consonants? 9? I didn't come to the 10 vowels.
Yeah, so Gina, give me what you've got. And Shanta will repeat after you.
Cha,
Cha,
Aspirate, cha, excellent.
da, ta,
Mm-hmm.
Da, da,
Uh-huh, beautiful.
and then dental da, da. No, wait, da has it. Da.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So that might have been less than 9.
All right. Let's start with lovely example, classic one, Ganga. So what we're starting is, if you don't have a final vertical line, you stack. You write one above the other, and both letters have to go smaller. So Ganga, we have the guttural nga, followed by the non-aspirate ga. But I'll let Shanta write it out and catch up. So part of this class is also understanding diacritical marks, because sometimes you will be somewhere where you don't have the Devanagari. So good reminder that an N with a dot over it is always this ng, right? So part of what you want to pay attention to is, what do we do with N's to distinguish them? So Ganga, there's one very lovely stotra that starts with this that always, I can't, Ganga Tarangaramaniya Jatakalapam. I can't do Ganga without thinking of that. So stacking, Shanta's going to write the whole thing. So the first ga is going to be full size, because it has, as Shanta likes to say, it has its own vowel. And then the next consonant, which is the nga, is missing a vowel.
So here, with the ga on the bottom of the nga, the letter above loses the vowel, and the letter on the bottom gets the vowel.
Yep, stacking. I don't think of it as who has the vowel, who doesn't. I just think of it who comes first. The first one has to adapt. So this has no final vertical line to lose, so it's going to go into stacking mode. Gina, does that make sense to you?
I'm just having trouble with the letter above the ga. What is that?
This guttural nasal. So here I wrote the guttural nasal with no vowel. I took the halanta stroke plus the ga.
So on your alphabet sheet, if you go to the guttural nasals, that's what we've got.
This is going to hang from
So
that.
as we were discussing this morning, if you have the word sing or king or junk, all of those are going to have a guttural nasal, because the letter after them is guttural.
So this tells us that Sanskrit's read from left to right and top to bottom.
Yeah, great
So
point.
if we write this in English, you could think about it this way,
That,
just as a thought.
no, whatever helps people learn.
Yeah,
That would get me muddled. I have
Yeah.
occasional spatial issues and ups and downs. Yeah,
but it shows left to right, top to bottom.
totally. There is another one that we're not going to do too many complicated options this weekend, because it can be, now let's do pancha as stacked. So if you look at the palatal nya, that has a final vertical line, but practically speaking, it is often written top to bottom. Once in a while, I'll see it written left to right with the line dropped. But most of the time, particularly with cha, it just would look messy to combine those two. It's not done as much.
So what Indra is talking about, this is the normal way you'll see it, but you might see it with the palatal nasal with no line, and then the cha following it with its own line. But this is the compressed version, likely to see it more often.
Does it mean 5?
Yes, 5. Yeah. And I think my Hindi was never great, but it's gone downhill. But I think it's panch in Hindi. Would not swear to that. Apologies to Hindi speakers who may be listening. But pancha, and it comes up. It's a very useful word. for lots of reasons. Shanta teaches at an Ayurvedic school in California, and they've got panchakarma, right? So that's 5 cleansings. How would you define panchakarma?
Very good.
All right, quitting while I'm ahead. Not an Ayurveda teacher. Okay, so we have with good ones with, what's another good stacking? We did, no,
You want to try the ha with no vowel?
no, I don't want to do anything with ha. I feel like there's one we teach all the time that I'm forgetting. All right, reading glasses can sometimes help. Really what comes up a lot is, let's do another one with the guttural nasal a little bit differently. Let's do the guttural nasal with aspirate ga. Ulanghya, meaning we won't do the whole thing, but that means to leap over. So
Short
just,
oo.
all right, let's do the whole thing. Ulanghya,
Short oo.
short oo. And that's a double la.
Uh,
Now, what do you guys observe about la? Does it have a final vertical line or not? It depends on how you write it. So this is another one you will see both ways. This one is sometimes written stacked and sometimes written side by side, but pretty clear no matter how you see it, because la's are fairly distinctive letters. They've got that humping thing. When I was a little girl, we lived somewhere where in the country where the way to a reservoir was to go over a series of mounds, which now that I'm a grown-up, I'm not sure why, but that was we walked to, literally we had a tank in the woods where water was collected, and it was a series of humps. So la always looks like that to me. It's our lumping letter. So Ulanghya is, Hanuman is a great example in terms of stories because he leapt over to Lanka. Lanka, that's a good one. So, okay, Ulanghya, we need, so you need the U to start, and then you need a double la. Pick any way you like to write it, stacking or side by side, whatever you would do. And then you've got the nga over a ga. Just straight up stacking. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am anticipating a future class. I'm so sorry. This is a special case that we would not teach on the first day, except I accidentally brought it up. So, just did. If there's too many consonants in a row, sometimes you make different adaptions, and ya is the semivowel that is pronounceable in most compound. Half the examples we've done this afternoon have been with ya. It's easy to say with many other letters. And it also, for that reason, there's important suffixes that start with ya. So you're going to see compounds with ya, like some of the potential participles have yas in them, like labhya was the one we did, right? Obtainable. So one thing that ya can do is open itself to the letters beforehand, and that's a triple consonant. I did not mean to teach a triple consonant on our first day. Sorry about that. But Having leapt. Having leapt over. Past, indeclinable past participle. Hmm? Yeah, yeah. But I thought of another funny top to bottom one, and that's opta. That's a little bit more. I was going to do that tomorrow. Opta. So the verb op is to obtain. Sounds very much like English, right? Op. And if it's a past passive participle, it becomes opta, something you got, something obtained, literally. So opta, you're going to put the pa over the ta. So it's a funny one where it's a slightly different kind of top to bottom. You drop the line, but then you put things together. But if you think about it, if you, I'm going to borrow the pen for a sec. Sorry. If you took the pa and you took away the final vertical line, that's what you get. And then if you combined it with the ta, they would just look unnaturally separated. They want to go together. So that's where you get the...
Sanskrit will compress.
It's sort of what's logical. And Shanta wrote it better than I did.
Question from Facebook. Do you mean that the following ya has taken the place of the ha on the previous double consonants?
No. Not at all. It's still an aspirate ga, ulangya. And if we didn't pronounce it aspirate enough, that was my fault. Ulangya. But that's... Yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why it's extremely valuable to learn Devanagari. Because if you're reading the English letters, you can be thinking that there is an H there, that there's a ha sound there, and there's not. It's just that aspirate ga. So,
There's a follow-up to your answer to that question. I'm sorry, I'm not able to pronounce your name because it's written in either Chinese or Japanese characters. But the follow-up question is, so it is not Ulingaya, but Ulingya with the ah after the nth? Look at the camera. Kanta, is that answering your question? Oh, can you repeat the explanation? A little. I'm going to make you a little louder because Kanta. I'm not sure if it's a he or she. Kanta. So I'm going to make you louder. Okay. Yeah, they're saying that they can't hear you. If I see, Kanta, that you say you have no sound. If you turn on the closed captioning on your Facebook settings, that might add some more insight. Yes, you have to actively unmute it, so it's possible that you're muted right now, and you could also try the closed captioning. Kay Estelle is saying that they did have sound, but not now. Kay, do you mean in general or just for Indira? Is the green light on? Oh, red light. There we go. Okay.
Okay, I can already feel I'm a whole lot louder. So thank you, whoever was asking questions and bringing this to our attention. So Seth is working on Shanta's mic. I'm going to repeat Langya. So we talked about the word sing early on today. That was a guttural nasal with a letter G. The only difference here is that this letter G has a little more breathiness in it. It's, excuse me, it's not a ga, it's a ga. And it's got a ya after it, so it's langya. Excuse me. I have reached the point in the afternoon where I need a throat lozenge, so Shanta, hopefully.
Hello. We are back. So about this ulangya word, that is a gaha, that is this consonant here. Guttural aspirate gaha. that is at the bottom of that guttural nasal. And since the ya hasn't been completed up to the top line on the left, it means that the guttural nasal and the guttural gaha both lose their vowel and the ya gets the vowel. Finally. So it's ulang ya.
Gya, yeah. Ulangya.
Yep.
Good.
And what to do?
Triple consonant. There was pretty much day 3 material that we got to accidentally early. So going back to what's a little easier, we're going to write pushpam, which is a very nice general word for flower. As some of you may know, there's a million words in Sanskrit for lotus, but this is just any kind of flower. Pushpam. So this is a cerebral sha plus a pa, and the cerebral sha has a final vertical line. It can be written that way. I usually write it a little bit more off where the sha part's a little bit fatter. Yeah,
With the pa below it?
yeah. So that can look a little bit more like a left to right or a top to bottom.
Uh-huh.
These, you are going to find, as we said, different fonts. You have to find the handwriting that you are most comfortable with. But these, if you look at our handout, we went into a lot of detail about how you make compound consonants in Devanagari. The basics are, you drop the final vertical line, you stack. The letter Ra, which is a mystical special letter, it does some special things that we're going to start with tomorrow. And then there's some outside to inside, and sometimes you have to use a hull stroke. Sometimes you have no other graceful way to combine a compound consonant to take away the vowel that way in the middle of a word. So many options, but they're all logical and they're all completely phonetic. The other way is sometimes you make up different letters. And our guru, there were 3 he liked to include with the basic alphabet, and we should end with at least one. Let's go with tra. So tra is dental ta plus ra. He liked to chant kshatragya.
I think it's too early for that because you're getting into the
The
all the
kickstand
changes.
thing?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tomorrow. We're going to end with a verse, and we should also repeat the last verse we did so that we are ending with some chanting energy and a little bit of silence, and then Shanta's going to lead us through feeling the hands again. So, reviewing the last verse was Jalabindu. So we can chant that one again a few times, feeling it. And I think maybe I can lead a tiny bit of echoing, if that's all right. So I'm going to invite people to repeat. So one line first, we will lead and we'll do it together. Jalabindu nipatena, half line. Jalabindu nipatena. Now we're going to go in a bit of a circle and we're going to say Jalabindu.
Jalabindu.
Nipatena.
Nipatena.
Kramasha.
Kramasha.
Puryate
Puryate.
Ghata. Oh, I'm so bad at this. Puryate
Puryate.
Ghata.
Gata.
Kramasha Puryate Ghata.
Kramasha. Puryate. Gata.
Wonderful. Sahetu.
Sahetu.
Sarva.
Sarva.
Vidyanam.
Vidyanam.
Dharmasya cha.
Dharmasya cha.
Dhanasya cha.
Dhanasya cha.
And all together from the beginning. Jalabindu nipatena kramasha puryate ghata sahetu sarva vidyanam dharmasya cha dhanasya cha. Om. So we're going to end with one very lovely, simple verse, which is a bit in the middle of the handouts. Let me see if I can find it. After the 3 pages on compound consonants, you get to asato ma sadgamaya. Asato ma sadgamaya.
Asato ma sadgamaya.
Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya.
Tamaso
ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma
Mrityorma.
Amritam gamaya.
Amritam gamaya.
Mrityorma amritam gamaya.
Mrityorma.
Amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. One more time together. Om Asato ma sadgamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Not ending. Sorry, we're going to have now. I think we should do that one more time together, since we had interruptions. We both, our throats, if we don't have these little magic throat things or water, after a while get lost. So this is very ancient verse. I should talk, the meaning is written here, but it is so simple and so wonderful. Asato ma sadgamaya. We have written here untruth to truth. It's often translated, and I would probably do that, unreality to reality. So whether you consider it truth or reality, translation is very similar. Lead me from darkness to light, death to immortality. Does not ever mean immortality of the body, It means true immortality, where you are feeling your oneness with the universe. So very ancient, very wonderful verse. And I will lead us in it one more time, and then we're going to have a couple minutes of silence, and then we're going to feel again what we feel with our hands. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya.
Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya.
Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya.
Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya.
Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya.
Few moments silence. Feel the change in the energy in your body.
So let's end with shaking the hands out. For those of you who are in the audience at a distance, if you have problems with your wrist or palms, don't do this. But otherwise, let's give the hands and palms a good shake. And then keep the palms facing each other a comfortable distance apart. And begin to feel that electromagnetic energy there. Keeping one palm still, and move the other palm slowly toward and away from the opposite palm, back and forth. And then switch and keep the opposite palm still and move the other one back and forth slowly. And then moving both palms toward and away from each other. This is that same electromagnetic vibration that we feel in the chanting, coming to our palms and fingertips. Oh.